Have you ever looked at a really complex recursive algorithm and wondered, how fast is this thing actually going to run? Well, there's a way to predict that even before you write a single line of code. The secret? It's something called a recurrence relation. This is a super powerful tool in computer science, and today we're going to learn how to crack them open. We'll explore 3 different paths to find the solution.
So what in the world is a recurrence? Honestly, it sounds complicated, but the idea is pretty simple. It's just an equation that describes itself using, well, smaller copies of itself. Think about those Russian nesting dolls, right? You open one up and there's a smaller identical one inside. That's a recurrence. Or imagine a recipe for a cake where one of the steps is literally, make a smaller cake. That's the big idea we're working with here.
All right, here's our game plan. We're going to cover what a recurrence is, and then we're going to hit 3 main paths to solve them. First up, the iteration method. That's our direct route. Then we'll check out the recursion tree, kind of the scenic route. After that, we'll jump on the express route with the master theorem. And to wrap it all up, we'll talk about how to choose the right path for the job. Okay, let's start down our first path, the iteration method. You can think of this as the direct route. It's kind of the brute force way of doing things. The idea here is really straightforward. We're just going to keep expanding the recurrence over and over, crunch some numbers, and hunt for a pattern. Once we spot that pattern, we're golden.
So to get our hands dirty, let's start with a really classic, simple example. We've got S of n equals some constant amount of work, let's call it C, plus S of n minus 1. You see this kind of thing all the time. It's basically an algorithm that does one little thing and then calls itself on a problem that's just a tiny bit smaller. All right, time to expand this thing out. See that S of n minus 1 term? We're just going to plug its own definition right back into the equation. So S of n minus 1 becomes C plus S of n minus 2. That gives us C plus S of n minus 2, which, is just 2C plus S of n minus 2. See? We're just opening up that first nesting doll. Pretty simple so far.
Okay, let's do it one more time. We expand Sn minus 2, and what do we get? 3c plus Sn minus 3. Are you seeing it? There's a pattern starting to show up. It looks like after we do this k times, we're going to have k times c plus Sn minus k. And that general formula, my friends, is exactly what we need.
So now for the big move. We have this general form, but what do we do with k? Well, we need to pick a value for k that gets us down to a base case, something we actually know the answer to. So what if we just set k equal to n? Then the equation becomes Cn plus Sn minus n, which is just Cn plus S of 0. And if we assume our base case S0 is 0, boom, the solution is just Cn. And there you have it. We've solved it.
All right, time for path number 2, the recursion tree. I like to call this the scenic route. If the last method was all about grinding through algebra, this one is totally different. It's all about drawing a picture to see what's really going on. It's an amazing way to build your intuition and literally see where all the work in an algorithm is happening.
And for this path, we're going to level up the difficulty a bit. Let's tackle this beast. T of n equals T of n divided by 4 plus T of n divided by 2 plus n squared. Whoa! So what's happening here? Basically, our problem of size n is breaking into 2 subproblems, and they're not even the same size. Then it's doing a bunch of work, n squared worth, to put the answers back together.
Okay, so let's start building our tree. At the very top, we have the root. This node is our initial problem, and the cost of the work done at this level is that n squared part. Now from that root, we split. We draw 2 branches, one for each of those recursive calls, one for the T of n4 problem and one for the T of n2 problem.
And now, we just do the exact same thing again, one level down. The T of n over 4 node has its own cost, which is going to be n over 4 squared, and then it branches out. The T of n over 2 node has a cost of n over 2 squared, and it branches out too. You can already see how this tree structure perfectly shows the problem breaking down into tinier and tinier chunks.
So as we keep building this tree down, the really useful thing to do is to sum up the costs at each level. So at the very top, level 0, our cost is easy, n squared. At the next level down, level 1, we just add up the costs of the nodes there. N over 4 squared plus n over 2 squared. That works out to 5/16 times n squared. The next level, you guessed it, we sum it up again, and it comes out to 25,256 times n squared. And this just keeps going.
Okay, so the total cost of the whole algorithm is just the sum of the cost of every single node in this entire tree. And when we add up our totals for each level, what we get is this really nice geometric series.
Notice how the cost is shrinking every time we go down a level. That means the sum is totally dominated by that very first term, the n squared at the root. So the final answer is theta of n squared. And all that fancy theta notation really means is that the runtime grows right along with n squared.
And now it's time for our third and final path, the one I call the express route, the master theorem. This thing is a game changer. It's like a secret weapon for analyzing all those famous divide and conquer algorithms, like merge sort. The deal is, if your recurrence fits a specific pattern, the master theorem gives you the answer, just like that. No fuss.
So here it is, the magic formula itself. The master theorem only works on recurrences that look like this. T of n equals a times t of n over b plus f of n. Let's break that down. A is just how many subproblems you're creating. N over b is the size of each of those smaller problems. And that f of n at the end, that's all the extra work you have to do to split the problem up and then stitch the answers back together.
So how does it work? Well, the theorem is all about a competition. It compares the work done at the root, that f of n part, with the total amount of work being done way down at the leaves of the recursion tree. And based on who wins that competition, you fall into one of three cases. It's all about where the heavy lifting is happening. Is it at the leaves? Is it spread out evenly? Or is it all happening right at the top, at the root?
Let's check out case 1. Take this example. T of n equals 4t of n/2 plus n. The theorem tells us to compare the work at the root, which is just n, against n to the power of log base 2 of 4. Well, log base 2 of 4 is just 2, so we're comparing n to n squared. Obviously, n squared is way bigger. This means the work is bottom-heavy. The cost is dominated by the massive number of leaves at the bottom of the tree. So the answer is just that bigger term, theta of n squared. Okay, on to case 2. What if our recurrence was 4t of n over 2 plus n squared? We do the same comparison. The work at the root is n squared, and we compare that to n to the log base 2 of 4, which is also n squared. They're perfectly balanced. When the work is spread so evenly across every level of the tree, we get a special result. We take that n squared and just tack on a log n factor. The final answer, theta of n squared log n.
And you can probably guess what's coming in case 3. Let's use 4t of n over 2 plus n cubed. Now the work at the root is n cubed. That is way bigger than the work at the leaves, which is still n squared. This is a top-heavy situation. The very first step of the algorithm is so costly that all the recursive calls afterward are basically insignificant. So the answer is just the work done at the root, theta of n cubed.
This is a perfect way to picture what's happening. On the left, you've got case 1. See how the tree gets wider and heavier at the bottom? That's because most of the work is concentrated down in the leaves. But on the right, for case 3, it's the opposite. The root at the top is the heaviest part, and the work actually decreases as you go down. It's all about where the work is focused.
So, there we have it. 3 totally different ways to solve recurrences. We had the direct route, the scenic route, and the express route. Which brings us to the million-dollar question, how do you know which path to take?
This little chart breaks it all down. Iteration? It's your reliable workhorse, but man, it can get tedious. The recursion tree? It's amazing for really getting what's going on, but they can get complicated to draw and sum up. And the master theorem? It's lightning fast, but it has a major catch. It only works for that specific divide and conquer format. So here's my advice for your workflow. Always check if you can use the master theorem first. It's a quick win. If you can't, draw a recursion tree to build your intuition. And if all else fails, you can always fall back on the iteration method to grind out the answer.
So now you've got 3 new, really powerful tools in your toolkit for analyzing algorithms. The ball's in your court now. Start thinking about the algorithms you run into all the time, things that sort data, things that search the web. How could you use these 3 paths to really understand how they work under the hood, and maybe, just maybe, figure out a way to make them even faster?